Hi, welcome to video number 3, SEO optimization. So if you go here, this is called the search engine results page, SERPs for short. You'll recognize the page because this is obviously where you put your query. So this is where you might put your product or service that you're looking for, and what will happen is one of these will come up, which is called a snippet. And so I also call these adverts to the world. And there's a lot of digital marketers who fail to even look at what these snippets and adverts to the world actually are saying. So I'm just going to run you through SEO. So I used to own a bed and breakfast in Aylesbury. So the first thing we need to do is, as a digital marketer, what I would be doing is I'd be looking at this line here, which says, I'm using John Lewis as an example, but I could have used any site, to be quite honest with you. I think there's improvement in a lot of the big corporates, which means the smaller organisations can actually compete. So if you look here, we've got johnlewis.com. So this here, https www.johnlewis.com, is actually known as a permalink. It's solid. You can't change it. It is what it is, and that's why it's called a permalink. Okay. Then you've got a forward slash. This one you can see where it says men. This one says Facebook. This one then says women / bags. Yeah. And what I'm looking for here is to see how focused what this bit here is called is a slug, and I want to know how focused the slug is on the product or service that you're actually offering. So for example, if this said the word training, I would be thinking that's miles too broad, because you're actually competing with everyone online who's doing anything to do with training. So one end of the scale, you could be doing Microsoft 365 training. The other end of the scale, it could be, teaching rabbits how to jump through hoops. It's so broad. So we need to focus our pages. So this is one of the first jobs as a digital marketer, what I tend to look at to see if I can actually help a business or not. So as I said, I used to own a bed and breakfast in Aylesbury. So the next thing that I would probably be doing is looking at this section here. So this is a page title. A page title, 65 to 70 characters in length. Yeah, and actually, if you put your mouse over the tab at the top, so top left-hand corner, see when I put my mouse over my website, or our website, should I say, you can actually see what that actually says. And so that is actually an SEO title. So you get an SEO title and a page title. So the things that usually go wrong with a page title is usually people put in their brand of some description. So here you can see John Lewis Partners. It takes up half of the actual 65 to 70 characters allowance. So you wouldn't really want to do that. Now, a lot of people would argue that, but we're doing a brand strategy. The problem is a brand strategy is not going to work here. So when I went to Johnson & Johnson, the guy there said to me, we're doing a brand strategy. And I said, well, it's not going to work. And he said, well, can you give me an example of why you think it's not going to work? The first point I'd make is, if somebody types in John Lewis or John Lewis and Partners or Johnson & Johnson in this case, your website will come up. And if it doesn't, I would say you've got a pretty serious problem to start off with. The second point I would say is that if I was looking for baby lotion in the case of in the case of Johnson & Johnson, I could either go on the Johnson & Johnson website, or I could go to a Google search or search engine and just type in there Johnson & Johnson baby lotion or whatever it might be. The problem with that is that 99% of the population are not interested in Johnson & Johnson. All they want is their baby lotion, and that's what they're going to type in this bar at the top. So it's really, really important that we get these snippets correct. So this is all part of SEO and optimization. And so many companies get this wrong. I'm not quite sure why exactly, but this is my understanding of it. So like I said, I owned a bed and breakfast in Aylesbury. So in order to do this line here, this title, there's two things that are absolutely critical to getting the right type of customers. The first one is really obvious, and that is to identify all the keywords that are associated. Because if you can get an exact match with what somebody is typing in here, and it comes up in your title, it's more likely that person's going to click on that link because it's an exact match search. The second thing we need to do is think about our unique proposition. What is it that we're offering to customers? And ultimately, any marketing is also about psychology, which I love psychology and why people do things. And so if I was to say to you, my bed and breakfast is 200 metres from the town centre, straight away you think, well, that's great. I can walk into town, I can go to a restaurant, I can have a load of beers or whatever, and stagger the 200 metres back to the hotel. If I was, say, I didn't have a car, and I said 200 metres from the train station, I know I only have to carry my bag 200 metres. If I wanted a decent night's sleep, and I had a Lamborghini, a Bentley, or Ferrari, I'd want to know my car is secure. So in this line here, in the title, 65 to 70 characters, I'd be putting the keyword, bed and breakfast Aylesbury, because that's the most likely thing that somebody's going to put in. Obviously, you'd have other pages that represent other keywords, and then your unique proposition. And a unique proposition is to the customer. They are not interested if you've been in business for 25 years. At this stage, they just want their product, and the idea of these snippets, adverts to the world, is to get people to click on them. Okay, so keyword research, unique proposition. The next thing I look at is this line here. So this is called a meta description, 150 to 160 characters in length. And again, what we'd be doing is benefits to the customer. It's no point in saying we've been in business 25 years because it doesn't make a difference. All they want is their product or the service they're looking for. And that's what's going to make them click on here. So in the case of the bed and breakfast, in the title, bed and breakfast Aylesbury, 200 metres from town centre, and then in this meta description, 150 to 160 characters, I'd be thinking, what do you expect from a bed and breakfast? So full English breakfast, an obvious one. Maybe comfortable beds, maybe 55-inch screen TV. We spoke about the other one, which is the secure parking. So anything that is going to make a customer or potential customer click on this link. Now, if we're driving the right keywords into the paid advertising, and we're getting the right information out, the data that we put into the paid advertising is unique to our business. And the only way I can really explain this is whatever data you get from keyword research is, generally speaking, it's not correct. It's not accurate, and it's definitely not accurate to your business. The only way to explain this is basically, if you can imagine a row of 1,000 servers, if you updated the first server, clearly the other 999 haven't been updated yet. So what happens is, number one updates and it starts to populate the other servers. So if I was looking at, say, we did a query each on the same thing, I might be looking at server 700 because I'm based in Aylesbury. You might be looking at server 300 because you're in London or Manchester or wherever. And so we're all getting different results. So the only accurate way is to actually do the paid advertising. And that's why we do the low paid campaign in order to drive the right traffic. So then we can use those keywords in order to optimize our pages. If we're driving the right traffic and we've got our snippets, our adverts to the right world correct, and people are clicking on them, then clearly, and you're not selling, then clearly you've got maybe a user experience. So if you're selling pencils for £1 million, you're not going to sell many pencils because you've got a pricing issue. Your pencils are too expensive. So it's really, really important that we get these snippets right. And so the 7 points of optimization that I tend to look at. The first one is the URL. So we spoke about the permalink and the slug right at the beginning. Next one is the page title. So you get a page title and an SEO title. So that's this bit here. And that's 65 to 70 characters. If you go over the prescribed limit, you get this in this top one. You can see this example, home, fashion, ... This is where Google has cut you off. And so it happens with snippets as well. If you go over the 150 to 160 characters, you can see here, ... It's where it cuts you off. You've used too many characters. So the next thing we look at is content on the page. So we need enough content to be able, so that the search engines have enough information in order to apply the algorithm, so the mathematical code, which will give you a listing here on the search engine results page in the form of one of these snippets, adverts to the world. Yeah, so you've got to make sure that you get all these elements correct. So usually I say keyword in the first line, the first paragraph within the first 100 characters, for example. The meta description, 150 to 160 characters. If you've got space for keywords, if you're talking to a younger digital marketer, they'll say, oh, don't worry about those keywords because Google doesn't use them. What you have to imagine is Google accounts for something, all right, probably 70, 75% of the traffic. The rest of the traffic comes from, obviously, other search engines who still may be using those keywords. So what we need to do is, if there's a space in the content management system, the CMS at the back end of your website, you should still be using 3 or 4 keywords on each of those meta keywords. So the next thing we look at is images on the page. I nearly forgot. I had a mental block there. Images on the page. It's important that we have an image and we name the image. And obviously we need to optimize images as we load them up. And if we've got videos, ideally run them on a pro YouTube or Vimeo channel where you're not actually uploading the video direct onto your site, because that's obviously going to slow things down as well. The last and final is you need an internal linking strategy. And I'm going to talk to you about the internal linking strategy when I talk about the content strategy in the next video, because it kind of goes with that more than obviously the SEO and optimization. There is also the optimization of the server, of course. So you use something like GT Matrix, which is completely free. You can get a reading on technically how your server is set up and whether it's delivering those pages to the customer as quickly as it could. Thank you very much for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next video, video 4 on content strategy. Thank you.